with Potato being that experienced player, taking the lead, taking the charge for that team. So there is a lot of potential. And you in the crowd could also be the one, potentially next year going into 2025. So make sure to check out that scene when you have the chance.
It could be me, but more likely it could be you. I don't think I'm going to be stepping into the battlegrounds with these guys anytime soon. There is plenty of fierce talent to be triumphed over. If you think that's your thing, make sure you clock in, get ready for it, because 2025 is just around the corner. But first, we need to conclude 2024, and PMGC is the place to do it. As our team's mounting up for the start of day 2 for our Sanhok, our second entry. Are we going to get that Northwest Circle blank? I know you're excellent on these circle predictions. What do you think?
I'm thinking Painan, probably. Yeah. I'm feeling a Painan. You know, it has to be, right? Yeah. Certainly. But we are almost underway here. 10 seconds to go before we do get into our first match of the day here on Sanhok, and then into triple Erangel, double Miramar, and then we'll be finishing off for today before the final conclusion going into tomorrow.
Sanhok plane path getting locked on in match number 7. The jungle awaits, and it will be deadly dangerous for 15 of our teams. Only one team will last to the end. It is time to get underway. Sanhok flies on over Northside plane path. We saw this yesterday. Should be fairly chill. Maybe we'll get a hot drop or two. We'll have to wait and see.
Now, if I remember correctly, I do think there is a little bit of a 4MV crowd going on down there. So maybe they can show some love to 4MV as we head in to our first Sanhok of the day. We know they did pretty well on this map yesterday. Potentially they can do it again. Team Spirit heading on over towards that Confluence compound, potentially even challenging out towards Bootcamp to start things off. NIGMA Galaxy down towards Sami. And VOIN Donkey ID will be picking up Hatin. So all very prominent positions in the map here. Team Spirit actually definitely going a little bit further into this one. Kitsune taking a dangerous approach over towards that northern side of Bootcamp. Falcons got to be a little bit wary about this one as they have been caught off on such a rotate before.
The Falcons shifting out of Bootcamp, it seems like Team Spirit have their turn to play the area. The south side of Paradise Resort now split over entirely by the Falcons, and Influence Rage may have some trouble brewing, but there is a little bit of a scrap. TJB and the Vicious, I think there was first blood drawn, certainly a knock sent out in that region of the map. You can see shots still ringing through, and TJB doing a lot of damage there to the rotating Vicious.
For Vicious, I think that they're a very strong team. They'd like to do a little bit better going into today, but we'll see what does happen for them. It's slightly quiet so far. Tongjiabao, they take one off 4MV. They will receive a little bit of punishment back their way, though, with the Vicious taking those shots through. Tongjiabao lose another. Down to just 2 players. Our PEL teams not enjoying themselves here.
Fortunately not, no, they have lost 2. The Vicious have lost 1 as well. So we'll see who's able to get this one out. Yeah, no, 4MV lose 1. Everybody around that South Painan area. You said the circle was going to end there. Blank, we've moved away, going up to Paradise Resort, but there was plenty of action around that Painan position. And there has been nobody who's actually survived it unscathed, which is really unfortunate for these teams who are going to have to transition across to that mainland, who are going to have to try and go for those fast rotates. You've already expended a player, which means you need to be so tight on those rotates into the future.
You look at this map at the moment, RCB actually have a very strong spot over towards Cow, and then they've actually got quite a few outposts down towards Torre Armada. Not Torre Armada. Goodness me, Tapmok. We're not on Miramar just yet. But yeah, down towards Tapmok, which is a good position to play around the lumber yard. So I think that on that position, you can get a lot of scouting done early over towards Paradise Resort with Influence Rage playing around that area. I think there is another team close by to that one, including Falcons. But Team Spirit completely have taken over Bootcamp off the back of this one, with Kitsune being that outpost earlier on. He spotted the rotate going through from Falcons early. This is fantastic news for them. Getting out from that Confluence compound is awesome. Sometimes a little bit more difficult as you do have a small hilltop looking over towards the east side of the map, making those scouting and getting information a little bit harder. But with Kitsune there, it meant they could immediately read the circle. So fantastic stuff. Hats off to them.
Nicely done. DRX moving in from the south side. They've managed to push up to one of the junction compounds that sits south of Paradise Resort. So a nice little stronghold for them to wait for the second circle to show its hand, to tip its hat. Na'Vi over on Ruins yet to make their move, but the south side with the Vicious, actually, I take it back, they did manage to get out of that Pioneer position unscathed. They rotated down south towards Camp Charlie, but I think their crossing ahead of them is going to be pretty treacherous, Blank. The Vicious's path goes either through TJB, or they go for a wide rotate out to the east side. I'm not expecting that. I think it's more likely they head into the vehicles and go across the bridge, go back into conflict with TJB, or maybe push up towards Painan yet again. What's interesting, Blank, is INSILIO. I'm looking at where INSILIO started around that quarry side. They're moving in to guard out Painan's crossing. They've moved out west away from the circle, where they had an option to just hold the edge inside the circle to try and guard all of these teams on the southwest side.
Yeah, I think this is a very basic play coming through from INSILIO, actually. I mean, it's the one you'd want to go for usually on this circle, because there is this hilltop that runs through just underneath that southwest side of Quarry, which looks down towards Painan. You can catch a lot of players off by doing that. You do need a little bit of a split here, but you have hard cover up there in terms of rocks as well as tree line. So I think this is the right play from INSILIO. It's pretty much a set play coming through from them. For the Vicious, easy enough decision for them to make going forward. They had information over towards TJB. They took down a couple of their players early, so they know that they are definitely weakened. Falcons, though, is an interesting team that we do need to talk about, because they did just take a knock. It was rezzed, but they're not in an ideal position just yet.
No, just on the east side of Paradise Resort, they have, as you say, managed to get that res through, though, and staying as 4, wait for that second circle. It's unlikely too many teams are going to be able to make their way towards you as well, so you can restrat, go into that next phase, hopefully unscathed. We'll just have to wait and see if they can repeat their performance from Sanhok, because if yesterday was anything to go by, this is the only game they can get any points on, so they need to make it worth their while.
Falcons, when you're on this eastern shift, though, it's quite easy to make that rotate to get into position. But what they need now is a couple of knocks, a couple of flushes. They need to expand space around this area. At the moment, it's just getting more and more claustrophobic for them. The walls are closing in for Falcons at this minute in time. INSILIO finding 4Vs. They head up that hilltop. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier on. And INSILIO starting off with a bang here. 2 elims found there for Redlick. And 4V lost a player earlier on, so now down to just the 1.
Yeah, Apex, the last to stand for 4MV, unfortunately, and trapped inside Painan, not in this circle, meaning you're going to have to move. The question is when, for me, right? When does Apex try and make that breakout? Because INSILIO, they will probably think about moving at this stage, but they're aware that they haven't fully flushed the team. They're waiting for the remnants of 4MV to leave Painan. And as Apex, you can probably outlast the blue for quite a while. So do you just want to allow INSILIO to get away, try and play solo into this, or maybe try and pick up a frag from it? I think we're just going to see Apex hunkering down, waiting this one out a little bit longer to see if he can sneak away and try and play solo into this Sanhok.
To be honest with you, I think that 4MV just really do blunder there. That is a big blunder. I'm sure the desk will talk about it. If not, I'll talk about it right now, because it's a case where 4MV, if you're in this position, you know that the circle still benefits teams holding that ridge side down towards Painan. But you also equally know that Falcons on this circle yesterday immediately moved east. Team Spirit followed them shortly afterwards. So there is that ability to head up towards Confluence Compound. That was always an availability to 4MV. I think the play of we're just going to run up the hill and hope a team's there and not there is somewhat manic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Especially with only 3 players remaining, right?
Yeah.
That's,
well, they sent 2 up, which was even worse.
It's kind of an interesting decision. Interesting, which is putting it nicely.
4MV, that's what 4MV is all about, interesting decisions all around. But those lead to 23 Elam games. Sometimes.
That is true. It's sort of like a weird min-max kind of approach to playing this one. Na'Vi min-maxing their style of getting knocked here, but Lemon's still on the warpath. The Falcons, they lose a player here. They're still on a little bit of a split, and they've got pressure on the north side with Guild going in as well. So losing one of their players here, not ideal. Lemon could potentially get flipped back up. There's not a lot of time to make that work, though, and I think getting across this road is maybe a little bit too tall of an order for Lemon, but he's going to give it a go. Smoke's dropping out, looking to try and cover the cross. Falcons are there. Alpha 7 are on the hillside further back, could potentially third party. I think Lemon's going to give up on getting flipped back and maybe just try and exact more of a toll onto the Falcons. A lot of damage, and there's Alpha 7 chiming into the fight. Lemon on the inside as well. There is no safety for Falcons, and they fall flat. A team on the north side as well, taking them down is Guild, going for the scrap with the last player, Icy. However, Guild not so fortunate in this standoff.
Icy looking to move on forward. Trip up the players from Guild here. He pulls out the DPS, but down to one player here. And it was a slight mistake coming through from Falcons. They do pick up 5 elims total, but now Icy all alone versus Guild here. Can take the shots through the window. Will try and go for it. Sees a player on the outside. Long distance DBS shot. He is dodging, ducking, diving, trying to get out of the way, but it's not working so far. Has to get the reload on the DBS. Short time ahead of him.
6 now in the chamber, ready to take the fight again. Looking for the pop shots, the nade over through the top, not going to connect here. No third parties just yet. It's possible, though, that we're going to see a team like Dplus KIA roll in from the east side. RCB may be poking their noses in from the north, depending on how fast this fight can conclude. Icy still just hopping about, but he's such a nuisance here to Guild. And not quite finding the shots, but neither are Guild, as the Vicious, actually a lot of teams still on the south side. Blank, we've got 3 teams, well, make that 2 with TJB finally going down all the way. You've got NIGMA Galaxy ahead of this one as the Vicious. Havarea's taken a knock. Icy, okay, back on board on the northeast side. We are going to be taking the fight continuously as he finds one, and now it's a 1v1, steps the corner. The last player just a little bit too much, and Guild stay alive.
It's a good play from Wagner, actually. The fact that he swings out wide, it's not what you would expect. You expect him to be holding inside the small cubby inside this building. So fair play to Icy to pre-load onto that position. Sadly, the pre-fire doesn't come through. NIGMA Galaxy looking over towards Vicious. They already pulled one out of the vehicle. They have a player in the wings as well, looking down the hillside. This is good news. Should be able to pick up one more onto that rock side, but he's already so low that the Vicious is down to 2. But NIGMA Galaxy putting a lot of stock into holding out this 4-man. And I mean, as 2 players, you get 4 elims on the game. That's 4. Again, it was a weird play in the sense that they held down the crossroads. You typically want to play a 2-2 on that position. They're way, again, it's that heavy split that comes in to bite them. You play a 2-2 on that one, you have to open one of the compounds. You open the one that's isolated on the other side of the road, and you play off the back of that. For the Falcons, unfortunately, they allow Na'Vi into 2 of them with barely any contest. It's an unfortunate approach, in my opinion.
And Lemon was able to take down that south point of it. Narvalo in a 1v2 on the windowsill there, has backup from behind. You can see the regroup from Redox coming on in, but it's not going to be necessary. The Vicious fall to the shotgun shells over the windowsill. Narvalo picks up another, but they're still so far south. We're in stage 3, and we've already gotten rid of 4 teams, though. So a lot of open ground got to be seen into this next circle compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, we're heading over towards Paradise Resort at the moment. Influence Rage is extremely happy with this. VOIN Donkey ID takes 2 knocks in the process. They're currently hiding down towards that south side, and they're getting ripped to pieces. Luckily, they do have a compound, but these nades are coming through thick and fast. A barrage over the top side. Explosions galore. VOIN Donkey ID holding on as best they can.
Team Spirit are chiming in as well. Influence Rage just raining down hell from above. 3 players with 1 player getting flushed for VOIN Donkey ID, bringing Vexy back in. They're looking for healing. They're looking for a little bit more safety. The nades continue to come through, but they're not connecting anymore. So 1 player down, but VOIN Donkey ID in a really important building on the south side of Paradise Resort. It gets a lot of pressure sent towards those ridgelines that Influence Rage are holding, should they need to move south on it.
Team Spirit have been extremely quiet this game. Currently heading out over towards the western side. There is the cliff sides on Paradise Resort that you can play around with. I think for Team Spirit at the moment, it's typically going to be ThunderTalks that they're dealing with. They're coming down from TapMark on the western side of Paradise Resort. So if Team Spirit can hold them out, they actually do have a strong compound to work with as well. This could be a good Team Spirit game for them. It really depends whether we keep heading over towards Paradise Resort or not, in which case Influence Rage win, potentially. Alpha 7, though, this is a much better game from them. I think I was talking about this earlier, where maybe with one of you guys. I can't remember, actually. I was just spouting nonsense earlier today. But Alpha 7, I think that they're struggling with the fact that there isn't enough feeder teams inside this lobby. It's such a packed lobby of talent that Alpha 7 like to cut in over towards stage 5 and take like a third party, remove 2 teams, and they gain a lot of space on an edge. And I think that they're forced to play more passive, which really, that's not their play style. But it is going to give them a more consistent average, which is what they'll need going into tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got 2 points on this match. They've got 3 players alive on the northeast side. They have a compound here. But you're right, they really want to get a little bit more fresh with it. And not been allowed to do so far. 13th place, 22 points, and the extra 2 they've got this game will be a little bit of a consolation, but they definitely need to open their stride, get a little bit of pace on board. Let's see what they can get done. Shift goes up, and it may just be a Paradise Resort finish. We'll have to wait and see a couple more circles, but this is good for VOIN Donkey ID. They can hold out all these teams to the south because it is still just so messy for everybody moving in. Dplus KIA have gone for a wide wrap around, and they may push in behind NIGMA Galaxy, but NIGMA Galaxy aren't there anymore. They get evaporated on the approach to INSILIO.
Yeah, for INSILIO, I think they played this game very fantastically. It's been a slow move up over towards that north side. They understood the assignment given to them, which was basically just to hold out players as they move through. And they've kept taking outposts, further and further up inside the lobby. It's very, very good stuff from INSILIO. I hope it continues inside this match. But now they're getting to a point where they need to start breaching inward. And there's only so many more teams on the south side that they can punish on the rotates. But they've already got themselves a fair few points, 4 total off the back of this one. DRX, though, is standing in their way. RCB over towards the warehouses, good position for them. We'll keep them safe for a while. And honestly, so many teams have already gone down on the edge that RCB isn't in too much danger for the next 5 minutes.
That can put them into a sort of a top 5 contention. We'll see if they're able to keep that position on the southeast side. Guild, their last player, was able to win out the end of the fight, but they only got 1 point for that engagement blank, which is not ideal. Wagner continues, but so does Apex for 4MV on the southwest side. They're on opposite ends of the circle, so we'll see if their approaches will be the same, despite being diametrically opposed. I'm interested on this west side, Blank, on the southwest side. I'm looking at Team Spirit's split at the moment as they approach up towards these compounds. You can see Dplus KIA are thinking about how to approach this one. They look like they're going to find Effect here and find him alone.
Yeah, Effect currently holding on a very prominent position inside the circle. It's an interesting spot. It does give Effect a good ability to just quickly move through this rock face, which looks like it has just been chopped in half by a massive sword. But for Effect, that does give him a very nice escape path playing off the back of this shack. Matic does come down for an assist. Now, this will be a full-man squad coming through from Dplus, so Team Spirit will struggle slightly. Nomi's doing the right thing, which is holding out players trying to come in from that southwest side, but all of a sudden, it gets very hot over towards Team Spirit's location. They're going to have to play in the fire.
See if they can rebuff the approach here, the advance from Dplus KIA. On this south side of their hold, it's a really difficult situation for them. I think ideally what they'd be looking for, especially with this circle shift, is to regroup up towards this north side at this stage. But with Effect going down to a nade from Osal, there's just no way you can extract from this. Another nade over towards the top, and Matic, yeah, okay, he is going to get out of there, trying to give Effect a passage out, but Team Spirit are just going to play on with 3. I think it's the smartest they could have been in that specific spot just then, because Dplus KIA, they're going to be drawn in to go for that flush, right? So less attention given to the retreating player, instead of both of them falling back at the same time, but still far from ideal for loser player at this stage.
They held a lot of area, right? I mean, they tried to hold maybe too much, let's say. I think always holding onside that rock is very, very difficult anyway. And you need to have a very quick response time. I think Effect maybe got a little bit too aggressive. In the meantime, INSILIO, this is the fight we were talking about earlier. They would have to push through DRX at some point. Right now, the fight's not going terribly badly for them. Redlick does hit the deck, who has been a pretty phenomenal player for them. And now they have to hit one of these nades. They need to get a second knock or a re-knock on side so they can invest time time into getting Red Lake back up again.
Ooh, is that third party? It is. It's Dplus KIA coming in from the west side, and DRX are forced over the hilltop to tumble on down. You've got KXA still on the grass, looking to try and snake this one out, but I think he's waited too long to strike. Finally stands up, but it will get put down almost immediately. INSILIO looking to repair now, but Dplus KIA bear down upon them. Two of them down, two of them right by the rock. A single nade could be all they need, and over the top, Fabian launches into the fight. Westron is already down and flushed as well. It's all up to Fash for INSILIO on the south edge, trying to keep his team alive, but there's 4 players to deal with. First, handled. Second, up to bat, low HP, looking for the reses.
Dplus, an interesting approach from them, honestly. The fact that they were able to get back into this one, move down the hill, lovely stuff. Fash, though, an extremely strong player coming through from INSILIO, making it work somehow, and suddenly Dplus is on the defense.
See, this team spirit as well. They're rotating back down in to try and third party. We saw this style from them yesterday. Looks like they're trying to re-engage that booster thrust over towards that third-party situation. Instead of finding those knocks, though, they're not quite fully flushing Dplus KIA. However, the blue zone may just do the work. Pushing in towards VOIN Donkey ID, now much more likely for Team Spirit after they've healed up a little bit.
I don't think that went at all how Dplus expected it to, right? You know, they're already down to a few players alive. It's unfortunate, just Osal has to continue going forward. INSILIO is cut out. I think it was the right decision, the right call to make, especially on Sanhok, to try and pick up as many points as possible. Unfortunately, for Dplus, INSILIO is just a little bit hard to handle. RCB sent Silas out as a scout. This is very typical Silas behavior. He just goes and does his own thing. RCB is like, sure, boss, you do what you need to do. Alpha 7, though, now on that eastern side, attempting to breach on through. RCB has to be very careful. In the meantime, Team Spirit moving over towards VOIN Donkey ID. The nades are going to have to be put...
Need to try and find an opening knock, but they're not quite getting the full damage through. A lot of damage sent back towards VOIN Donkey ID on the inside. They're playing with 2 players on this shack. There's also Kitsune to worry about. That third party, that high ground off-angle you see behind that tree, forcing VOIN Donkey to wait for the breach to come on through. They failed to find the nades just yet. Potato's cooking up another one, but Nomi doesn't want to wait for the nade to explode there. Tries to go for the trade, but it doesn't work out well. ThunderTalk now moving in from that north side, and Kitsune is under a lot of threat now, a lot of pressure. Will be the last to stand and will fall down. ThunderTalk can take that western side.
Yeah, Osal actually had a little bit of an impact in that fight, taking down Matic on that sideline. Again, I think this is one of the positions where you need Molotovs, you need nades remaining to make that push here. And I think for Team Spirit, they assumed from the spot that they had, they wouldn't really need those going into the future. And now Dplus will be alone with Osal on that southeast side. But ThunderTalk did a great job. I actually enjoyed the fact that AJ split out over towards that northeast side of the peak in, was like, this is really not free for us. I think we're better off trying to take down these teams that are down on that south side who have been fighting for a very, very long time. RCB, though, with that central position, we move off from Paradise Resort, and suddenly Influence Rage have to play the game.
They have to move from Paradise Resort. They've sent Lil Boy out as a scout down south, because he's on the high ground ridgeline, and they do have a lot of power to play from that area. ThunderTalk will contest them for it, potentially looking to try and push through there, but Influence Rage still have the angles. They drag down one from the backlines as well. King has been knocked, so a little bit harder to play with. Alpha 7 approaching from this northeast side in the meantime, and RCB may be a little bit too wide on their split, a little bit too bold here. Sara looks to try and control, but not going to stop the flush from coming through either way, and that leaves only Influence Rage as the 4-player team as the west side and the south starts to resolve.
Nades pouring on through over towards Alpha 7. They take a couple of knocks, and they're making sure that they are holding this team out. They're out inside the blue. RCB, though, they know they need to conclude this fight quickly, because obviously there's got to be a team in Paradise Resort who are making their way out, who are healthy as anything. Lovely play from RCB, rolling up in the vehicle, take down Alpha 7. And like I said, they needed to get them out of the circle quickly. That's one way of doing it.
There's the Sara push, 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 and you're going to be rolling out with RCB this time around. Influence Rage, they've lost a player, they've lost Lorazin, but they still have 3 players up on this high ground as well, with 1 player from ThunderTalk beneath them. Ching trying to give him a fancy feet, the roll around, trying to wrap it on up, but with the last player to stand, the nade at his feet will send him skyward, and it is now 3v3, is actually maybe 2v2. RCB lose 1, Sara did go down, and now Silas and Loxy trapped on the inside. The circle closes dead center on this.
I mean, I think Silas there just forgot to recall Sarah back into the Pokeball, apparently. Just left him out inside the blue. And now we'll have to play on as just 2 players and see what they can get done here. They'll need an absolute hyper beam to remove Influence Rage from this high ground. But a 2v3. Lovazin down.
Ooh, okay. Silas opens the bidding. 1 knock found towards that high ground. That gives them a little bit of breathing room. Loxy breaks out to a trade. Lil Boy spotted as well. Silas standing tall for RCB from beneath. Finds the 3rd as well. The old-time champ steps up for another performance.
GG.
That was an unreal play. Silas silences the opposition and they come away with a chicken dinner.
Well, we were watching that game, and that was definitely an unexpected result. However, Max, you were really diving into the way RCB played that final zone out, that final push out as well, and that was a thing of beauty.
They knew we have to push Alpha 7 early. If we do not send it to Alpha 7, we're going to get pincered between them and Influence Rage. It's going to be a Brazilian sandwich here, 7. They avoided it just like they should have, and really the way they after got those shots, like Silas, what was that about? That was crazy accuracy on those sprays.
Great opening. I really enjoy how they just ended up, you were mentioning too, they waited for the circle to end up pushing INF down. Yes. I got to give some props to INF though. They played that so well. One thing that we're looking at is Little Boy, the way that he was able to control that ridge worked out perfect. They ended up taking care of ThunderTalk Gaming, which was the biggest question mark in regards to what they were going to be able to do there. And Silas, I mean, even with that starting knock to opening there for ultimately the win, ends up getting MVP.
Yeah, not only Doc can also put up numbers in terms of fragging power, also Silas can do it. And you know, Silas currently one of the few players at this tournament that does have a PMGC title under his belt, and he's ready to reclaim it here already on this Sanhok game.
I mean, he's only got 1, King's got 2.
Oh.
Okay, well,
well, you got to one-up him
How
like
many
that.
do you have, Jason?
5. No, I guess 4 because I missed 1.
Oh,
actually,
true.
I didn't. Okay, like in terms of fair enough. Okay, got me there.
Those don't count though.
No, but again, for RCB, if you guys are unfamiliar at home, I mean, they are playing with Sara. Razy did break his arm, which means they're playing with someone they really can't communicate with, which makes seeing them win even more impactful. I mean, obviously, we heard Blank and John talk about, you know, Silas probably calling out push, push, and it ended up working out for him. And 7, go ahead.
This is the one that you were talking about there, Max. The way that he was able to just wait for that ridge, wait for the circle to end up pushing them, wait for the right timing ultimately, and ends up getting that accuracy, ends up getting those shots, and ultimately the opening knocked. Right timing right there. That was the winning play, I feel like.
Yes, I think there was an opportunity maybe for Influence Rage to get the win, as if they third-party the push of REGNUM CARYA onto Alpha 7. I just don't think they quite got the information. I'd love to see their perspective, how much intel they had on that fight, but because of that, we're going to stay on our little ridge side. They waited out the circle to push them out then of that ridge, as we talked about already, 7, and that was the perfect play if you want to get the win. And here you go, 3 eliminations for Silas and 2 go in the way of Sara.
And maybe the reason why Influence Rage decided not to end up pushing RCB, I think it has to do with ThunderTalk Gaming. They were just waiting it out. I think that with ThunderTalk Gaming, at least having some players still alive there, it kind of forced them to just be a little bit more passive. Stuff that we've been talking about with some of the other teams, one that comes to mind is like VOIN Donkey. Sometimes they tend to be a little bit too passive there at the end and be extra careful.
It was good. Like, it was such a good approach from Influence Rage. They know we are going to get backfilled by a few different teams. Here was one team in particular, ThunderTalk, that did delay their rotation significantly to avoid the bridge camp. And they knew that's why they placed Lil Boy on that southern ridge of Paradise Resort so early, to make sure we do not lose that pivotal position for a possible chicken dinner. So again, good approach here from ThunderTalk and Influence, but Lil Boy had the key position.
Something massive that we actually ended up noticing at the beginning of this match was that drop on bootcamp. We expected Falcons. Falcons decided to end up backing up away from that fight, ends up being really split towards the east of bootcamp, and Team Spirit is the one that ends up landing on bootcamp.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was just decided before this game or if they just dropped, saw the parachutes like, okay, we got another option that we know is available. It's going to be south of Paradise, and as we saw, it went towards Paradise, so that was a good drop location to go for. But we know, 7, I mean, playing games and also watching these tournaments, southern terrain of Paradise Resort is horrible. And every team that tried to make that approach from that location in particular got eliminated so early in their mid to late game finish.
And something else that we noticed throughout this match was Team Spirit. They ended up with the 2-2 split that ended up getting punished by Dplus KIA.
Yes.
They were able to catch 2 players too far away from the other squad. They were not going to be able to get there in time. They ended up getting one of the players there from Team Spirit and forcing the last player from that 2-2 split to just back off.
Yeah, you can see here in the replay how it worked out. You had Effect and Matic split from the rest of the Nomi and Kitsune that were high up north. I was actually quite surprised that they didn't instantly get in the cars to try and regroup or to have their teammates come and back them up. They just stuck around in that position despite getting pushed up by Dplus KIA. They knew that push was coming up too, right? And yet they lose effect and Matic is able to regroup. So a little bit unfortunate. It is a Sanhok, but we know that on Erangel, they can truly deliver.
If we're going to talk about Dplus KIA, we got to talk about how ultimately their match ended up just coming to an end with INSILIO Fashe. I mean, he was able to clutch up a lot of elements. If he would have had just that full health and maybe not the zone pressure him, I think he would have been able to just fully clear the squad. I
mean, look, INSILIO, they got 9 eliminations. They just cleared all the South Korean teams, by the way. They fought DRX, 1 versus DRX, then Dplus KIA. They're just going crazy against the South Korean team.
Oh! And it felt a lot about, actually, like INSILIO just gatekeeping teams, because they also did a similar thing to like 4MV, right? We saw Redley pick up a 1v2 up against them. They knew they were already wounded from an earlier elimination, and they ended up getting themselves 9 eliminations in total. But, you know, Alpha 7, another 9 points for them as well here. What would you kind of categorize that? A decent game, 7?
That's how they need to start off the day, especially for a team that was far down in the leaderboard after they won. Being able to come out in the first match, top 4, 5 eliminations, is not the usual insane performance that we've seen out of Alpha 7, but it is the performance that they need to start off their day, to set that momentum on the right track. The big question mark, though, is we saw a great performance out of Alpha 7 in the first 2 matches yesterday. What are we going to be seeing out of them for the rest of the day?
Actually, it's kind of weird to me because Sanhok has never been a map that really stands out to me when I'm thinking of Alpha 7, right? It's more of a Miramar in particular. I'm like, oh, that's going to be typically their really, really big map here. But if they do good on that map, that's really good. But going into Erangel, that's going to be the big question mark for today.
I mean, speaking of good, right? With this victory, RCB move up to 6th place at 47 points. VOIN have moved up to 2nd as well here at 58. And that gap that 4MV did create yesterday is slowly dwindling away as we obviously are going to be heading into Erangel next.
Yeah, Erangel is going to be very important for these teams as we go lower on the leaderboards, and Alpha 7 not budging then. It does close the gap a little bit, so now one other game like that might be able to push them up significantly in the rankings. So we have another red arrow going up here. Is going to be Influence Rage that, with a game like that, sure, it's a 2nd place, they maybe could have got the win, but this is the type of game you want right now, early on in day 2, if you want to have a chance to compete at the top of the ranking.
And as well for Team Falcons, even though they didn't end up getting any of those placement points, they did end up with at least 6 eliminations. That is going to be massive for that team, a team that usually relies on the squad to just be aggressive. It's good to see, even in Sanhok, even though they didn't end up getting that bootcamp drop that they're so used to getting, they were still able to rack up at least 6 eliminations.
Yeah, you had a lot of stragglers just coming in from the southern side they were able to just get rid of, as of course crossing that road is going to be down into a valley, then uphill, so you can get a lot of eliminations off the back of that. But as we said, southern terrain of Paradise is always rough, so I think they understood we're definitely not going to have a winning game here. We're just going to capitalize on early eliminations and then see if we can get maybe a few points here and there as a backup at the end of the game.
I mean, I think that's fair considering it is Sanhok, right? You're not really going to expect to get high placement points, look for those limbs, and I still kind of surprised at the gatekeeping that we saw, but also some third party. I know you guys did talk about it a little bit here with Dplus being very aware of the fact that DRX did fight up against INSILIO after Dplus fought up against Spirit, and they kind of collapsed on top at looking for eliminations, because you know those limbs, like we saw with IHC, are going to move you up the leaderboard. And speaking of being at the top here and being strong, the Mountain himself, as we do have the Arctic Conqueror guild set. Max, you did not gain strength. I know you did not weightlift. Is actually going to be here on the 7th, which is today. If you guys are actually here in the house or near, you can come on in. And the weightlifting challenge is also going to be live during this, which I think, Max, as you two try to pretend like you are buff, it's not going to be working out. But make sure you guys check this out in game and you can get it for yourself. What do you mean pretend? Have you seen him at the gym?
Have you seen? I've been bulking for the past 20 years.
I broke my rowing machine, okay?
Pick up 7 right now.
You broke? You have a rowing machine?
No, don't.
No, do not pick me up.
You're too gullible. You're too gullible. Also, big shout out here to KIA as well here, as they are the heart of the KIA city and the gaming esports district, the world's IRL gaming and esports district, and the epicenter of gaming culture. Make sure you guys check that out next year. I cannot wait till we get to go there, and maybe I can get an MG3 and take you down. Not a real one.
Not a real one?
Maybe we'll start working out there too.
No. 7, how many years have I known you now? You go to the gym for 1 day when we go to events, and then you just
Instagram.
2 days.
Too, yeah.
Dude,
take a picture?
You work out,
okay, I'm done. I went for actually 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
And then my knee started hurting, and I was like, I'm done.
Well, you know what?
Age.
You know what? With a Koopa, they might just be hand warmers, but maybe you can use it to heat up your knee and actually help it out here. The UT2 Gamer Pros with its 5,000 milliamp battery and 4 different adjustable heating levels. You can pick one up. You see the players on the stage using it. And honestly, these things are sick. I'm surprised we haven't seen them around earlier on because you know what? My hands get extremely
It's really
cold.
good, actually.
Rechargeable battery bank as well. And you know what? I got my own.
We need it in the UK,
mine are purple,
okay?
though. I think I got the best ones, to be fair. And they got RGB as well on top of that. But gentlemen, as we are about to head into Erangel here, we got to kind of turn our attention toward this because this is the meat and potatoes of what we have every single day. 3 matches. INSILIO is definitely going to be a team we're keeping an eye on because we know how important hovercrafts are. We even talked to Defy earlier on, the coach for VOIN Donkey, and he says like these things, like we don't necessarily go completely out of our way like INSILIO to get them, but if we see one, we pick one up because they are that instrumental in a success.
I think that's the game plan for every team here. If we see it, we're going to take it. But unlike INSILIO are the only team here that are just, we are going to actively go out of our way to try and get one of those. And I love that game where NIGMA Galaxy won yesterday. They were just hiding behind one of the hovercrafts from INSILIO and like, this is actually
pretty good.
This is actually a really good defensive position. We're just going to maybe use it a bit more. It's actually insanely strong if you have infield.
And Seven, we were talking about this as well with him, and we were talking about like, why don't teams try to explode him a little bit more? It's the fact that if you end up, wasting your entire clip on it, someone can hop out and just shoot you. So teams are being very respectful of knowing, like, we can't invest too many bullets to blow this up. Instead, we got to be careful about being eliminated ourselves.
Extra careful. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about it because my driving is absolutely awful. One team I do want to talk about, especially before we head into Erangel, has to be Dplus KIA. I mean, we saw them being able to not put up any performances yesterday during Erangel. The first Erangel, 16th place, 1 ilm. Second one, 9th place, 5 ilms. And then the third one, 8th place, 0 ilms. For this team, we were talking about it at the beginning of the day. What I want to see out of them, Max, is I want to see that positioning out of this team that we saw that they were capable of during Miramar. That quick thinking, that positioning, and also the aggressiveness to stop any third party from happening. If they can do that, honestly, that could be a champion caliber team. Yeah,
in a similar vein to Dplus KIA, I'm going to talk about the other South Korean team, right? That has been having some varying results on that map. They got, I think, a 2nd place, but with only 2 eliminations, relatively low for like a good finish on their angle. I think DRX, especially after how they played in their Group Yellow, we expected big things going into the grand finals. Unfortunately, has yet to fully deliver, but there's a lot of teams that are looking to improve their performances on Erangel, so Dplus, DRX are definitely some of those teams, and INSILIO, hopefully they're just going to hope to maintain their performance on that map from yesterday.
We're talking about teams that need to be able to improve in Erangel. I think one team that was actually able to do really good in the first Erangel was the NIGMA Galaxy. They were able to get that first win, they were able to back it up with 10 eliminations. I want to see what this team is going to be bringing into Erangel today. And I see your thinking face.
I'm thinking, actually, real quick, before we do go into the game, I want to see Falcons. What are they going to do with their 2-2 split drop in Milta and also Novo? Are they going to fix it? Because INSILIO are still going to be there looking for the hovercraft.
We heard Senator that they need to fix those mistakes.
Well, not to mention 4MV, can they pull off another amazing match yet again on Erangel in day 2? There's a flash in the pan and league stage to see if they can change their future as we head over to our commentators and drop it into our first Erangel of the day with John, Allen, and Blake.
Thank you very much, Jason. We are, of course, going over the grassy pastures once more. Plane path from Sosnovka military base up towards Georgia Pole. So, a little bit western leaning on the plane path blank. We have cut out areas like Kameshki and Stelba. A little bit far afield, but not going to be too dramatic.
No, I think this is absolutely fine for a lot of our teams here. Obviously, getting over towards the Povka, Yasnaya, a little bit more difficult, Severny as well, but most teams will struggle. Most teams will be likely to pick up vehicles from around Milta and Farm. I think likely Team Spirit will be a little bit unhappy, considering teams are likely to drop around them here, John, to try and pick up vehicles off them, so they are instantly out looking to pick up those positions. Those splits might be a little bit more dangerous early on here.
The triple on the south side. You got Falcons also around that Nova. So 4 teams on that military base. It is going to be a little bit rough here if it's not a military island circle, which, statistically, quite likely to happen apparently here at PMGC finals. We do like to see it. INSILIO, interesting drop here. I mean, this is their standard drop, right? But I'm wondering how much stock they invest in staying near that bridge, right? You loot around Milta, you loot around the edge of this bridge. There's a lot of teams who have already dropped out over that military island. Likely you can get quite a few points, and with a circle like this, they're going to have to be rotating up north. So potential to collect quite a lot early game here for INSILIO.
Yeah, they can head up towards Milta, they can get a wide wrap past Yasnaya. There is a ton of options for INSILIO going forward, and they're going to be happy with this treasure trove of decisions that they get to pick through. VOIN Donkey ID, Influence Rage, fairly close to one another at the moment. Primos held by VOIN Donkey ID at the moment as they head on through. In the meantime, though, Tongjiabao up against the Vicious, and a full squad wipe comes on through. Tongjiabao getting some vengeance from game 1.
That was in a 2v4 as well, Blank. The backup hadn't come through yet. And they managed to make it work. Early drops, lack of weaponry, and 4 elims added for TJB. That is a great result for them. They didn't even lose anyone. Flower, Shaw got taken down, did get rezzed, and will be fine. Just grab a couple bandages, get a first aid from somewhere, and the fact that this fight concludes so quickly is massive, Blank, especially on such a pivotal crossing point in a circle like this.
Yeah, for the Vicious, it's so unfortunate. Currently in 7th place, they want 42 points. This could have been a great game to get up there with the likes of 5th and upwards. Currently, INSILIO and Dplus tied on points at 52 apiece, and Team Spirit only 2 points ahead. But in that top 3, alongside with VOIN ID, who have been a consistent team from start to finish. And I can only imagine how happy Indonesian fans are to have such a great representative here at the PMGC Grand Finals 2024. Here's the Falcons taking a hovercraft. I don't know if they've beached it though.
That's not a Falcons player in that hovercraft. That is Fash from INSILIO. This is a roll-up on Icy. He hasn't been able to take the fight. You can't commit to going for the spray down, and they just keep that pressure on. What can you do?
It's really quite annoying, I imagine, for Falcons losing a player like that. We will have an interview with the. Not entirely sure.
I think it was with Defian from VOIN.
Yeah,
I think we got an interview with the coach of one of the most consistent teams.
Absolutely.
And we will be
Let's take a
hearing
listen.
what he's got to say right now. Such a fantastic mind in the PUBG Mobile scene. He is definitely leading from the front here for VOIN ID and enacting what has been a successful strategy for them so far. Very cool, very calm, and that's what he's saying his team is feeling like as well. They are just coming into this one thinking, you know what? This is, for most of us, the first time we're going to be seeing this sort of stage. Let's just give it a go. There's nothing to lose, and right now, there is everything to gain, especially in the second place that they sit.
Yeah, I think for VOIN ID, there's certainly going to be pressure on side for them, but they are playing out fairly well. And I think that you come in, this is the big thing. You come into day one, and what you've done in day one has worked. Always a massive blessing for a lot of teams when that happens, because you don't have to change anything. And a lot of times going into day two, it's much, much easier for you than teams who have to really slog through all the VODs in the evening, really wake up quite sleepy, because I imagine there's a lot of work to be done. But if you can just go back and be like, yeah, that was good, maybe we could change a couple of things here and there, but not major tweaks, that means that you can feel very fresh going into day two. Team Spirit very close to Dplus, and a lot of grudge matches coming through so far between TJB and now even Dplus versus Team Spirit. It's an interesting way to start.
Ooh, finally, the hovercraft has been countered with an elimination over towards INSILIO, and it will be pilfered as well. ThunderTalk will take that one away from them and carry on in on the east side now. It's not quite in the circle just yet, playing slow into this one over in the Milta area. A little bit unwieldy on the hovercraft there, but ThunderTalk do claim that. So INSILIO playing on with 3. However, INSILIO have already managed to get 2 points extracted from the Falcons. We saw that during the interview as well, able to find that second elimination. So They will be all right for the time being and able to keep pace a little bit. You can see they've jumped up just over Team Spirit now.
Yeah, but the game plan, it's all ruined. No more hovercraft. What are you going to do about that now? That's the real question. I do also enjoy the fact that the drop spot plays into their hovercraft fantasies, right? Where they always drop around a position where they can pick one up early on, but losing it is somewhat of a detriment to them because, again, they like to play in open spaces. They like to take advantage of those positions just because they have basically a moving wall that goes along with them anywhere. So losing that to ThunderTalks might be a big blow to their game plan. 4MV currently down towards our southwest side, pushing over towards NIGMA Galaxy and DRX. NIGMA Galaxy not doing too badly. They've had some decent performances, currently on 40 points so far. It's a respectable result going into day 2. Certainly something you could work with. 4MV though, remember, they finished yesterday on 62 points. It might be at 63, but overall in those last 2 Miramars, they got 0 points total. Right, so 4MV weren't able to pick up too much more off the back of that. They could have been soaring ahead of everyone else here coming into day 2, but they were happy to even the cards a little bit.
There is still plenty of teams biting at their heels, though. They will be all too happy to jump up into that first place. Hard southwest shift blank. It does isolate the south side, but it's over towards the Gatka fields, meaning that Everest cut out to that western edge. The river crossing on the north side now going to be dangerous. We're looking at Alpha 7, TJB, and Guild all looking to make that move. The question is who's going to be able to filter through this one unscathed?
DRX, massively good position for them. They can pick up Castle, they can pick up Ruins. These are very, very strong spots to play in. There is also the bunkers, which they do actually have an outpost in at the moment. It's a question of whether they want to head up towards that northwest side too early, considering we are going more central towards Pachinki. Tongjiabao hopping out at the moment, looking over towards Alpha 7, trying to find a pickoff, but Alpha 7 is more concerned with getting into the circle right now and send them away in the meantime. But Tongjiabao on a high after taking down Vicious so early.
And kind of almost free-rolling this match, right? With 4 eliminations already, you've already done a lot of work that you need to get done into this circle, into this zone, and into this game. So taking these fights, you can be a little bit more aggressive in the knowledge that worst case scenario, you get 4 points on this match, which isn't a terrible place to be, but when you're down towards the lower end of the tables, maybe you want a little bit more, so that strategy can change a little bit. TJB, they fall short of the river here because Alpha 7 are already across. They read into that, and TJB don't need to cross just yet. The compound that they hold now is in the circle for the next one, and they will be able to wait for the next shift. Alpha 7 much more likely to just send away, and in fact, that's what they do. Get a little bit closer to this one. Play the compounds over towards Ruins.
A smart play from TJB, honestly, really enjoyed that one. A lot of times you will see teams just razz it across, and Alpha 7 is used to punishing that. This time around, they're like, oh, we have to just keep going forward. There's no point in sitting around this bridge forever. In the meantime, Dplus currently up against the ThunderTalks, and already there is an initial knock that goes through onto the ThunderTalks. Dplus not doing a bad job here, and this nade could prove devastating.
No real third parties to be seen onto this location either, which means it's a straight-up 4v4 in the apartments. A wide wrap maybe from a team like Team Spirit, but that's got at least 30 to 40 seconds on it. We'll see how long this one takes to conclude. Nolboot nades out and finds the flush. Good start for the fight. ThunderTalk losing 1. But it's a little bit slowed down now. It seems like Dplus KIA not going to continue with their aggression onto the fight, but they've claimed one of these apartment buildings. They've pushed ThunderTalk away. King up on that high ground, not really having an impact, and a big nade over the side there for Osal. Does a lot of damage to AJ as well. King needs to find value on this nade, needs to find 1 or 2 knocks on this one for sure. Goes in, plus a lot of damage to Nolbu's health bar, but doesn't quite find that knock that they were looking for. AJ gets the heal off, but immediately taken back down. They get sat, and it is ThunderTalk with one left to stand in this game.
It's a great nade to start off with, honestly, coming through from Dplus, because send the first into the building, immediately follow up one through the window. So even though it didn't do a lot of damage, they understood they were on the outside of the building at that point, in which case Osal could follow up with a nade around the side of the door. It's just smart play from Dplus. Very hard for ThunderTalk to deal with, because as soon as they were on the defense, they weren't getting away from it. Another great pickoff, and that will be Dplus with 4 elims. Our South Korean representatives doing very well in school. Pretty much a masterclass of how to play apartments on this eastern side. 4MV going up against VOIN, Donkey ID, Potato, blasts into the building.
And Vexy down, sure, but they're on the inside. They've got the protection they need to get this res. 4MV trying to get some retribution here after losing 2 of their players, but they can't get into the warehouse position. Now VOIN Donkey ID looking to repair themselves, pick themselves back up in this position to the west side of Pochinki Blank. They have got a solid area under their control, but they just need to put it back together to make sure that they've got that strength to play around. RCB, you can see them marauding on the north side here, and NIGMA Galaxy just across the way.
RCB quick to try and replenish supplies here. They know teams are wandering on the outside. They're wondering if this fight's concluded, if it's third-partyable. Is the real question. VOIN Donkey ID would love to bust open that building that 4MV holds over on the eastern side. I'll see if they can get it done. But right now, VOIN Donkey ID pretty content in the spot they have. A ton of vehicles in there as well that they have available to them to block off entrances. I think there's more than the players on board over there at the moment, which is very nice to see. Alpha 7, after they rotate in, they will sit on the western side. They have a compound that sits a little bit of high ground over towards the western edge. It is right on the edge of the circle, but it will provide them nice information over towards 4MV and VOIN Donkey for their future approach. Team Spirit get cut out here. One player going down nice and early, and Effect looks to follow.
Some old school mistakes coming through from Team Spirit. Staying 2 split now, 2 matches in a row, getting punished for it. INSILIO, a nice roll up there and capitalizing on the opportunity, so adding more to their tally. 4 elims found now for them. They're up into that 3rd place. They're starting to make, 4 elims found for INSILIO. They're up into that tied 3rd place with Dplus KIA, currently a little bit behind on the tiebreakers, but they will continue to march on forwards. On the southeast side, looks like they're going to head through Pochinki. I'm interested on this one. And you seem to, you said earlier they lost that hovercraft. They've got one back on side. Fash sidles up to the south end of Pochinki.
Yeah, the thing is about the hovercraft is that you can't shoot the player out of it. Like, the only response to it is to blow it up. And it has a massive health pool as well. It's pretty durable. So it's extremely good. And they are putting it on Fash every single time. Purely because what can you do about a fragger that just cannot be stopped when they're crashing in? And if Fash can get a lot of work done in that front line immediately with basically no consequences for crashing in aggressively like that, it's such a difficult thing to play against. And then it provides a massive cover in the late game. I'm tempted to say that the hovercraft is somewhat broken at the moment, but it is making for a fun experience here at the PMGC.
And that's the thing, right? INSILIO seems to be one of the very few teams that's actually really capitalizing on that. They have really added it to that strat book, and they're making it work repeatedly. Team Spirit lose another. A nice little tumble there from Aza. Guild, 10 points from the judges, but they don't go onto the tables, unfortunately.
Yeah, Team Spirit losing another is unfortunate, right? For Team Spirit, they're not in a bad position on the tables. You know, in 5th place, it's unlikely they'll get their player back up again. This has to be a classic salvage game now coming through from Team Spirit to try and live as long as possible and get those placement points. Kitsune goes down. So now just Nomi, I believe, remaining for the squad.
The circle shrinks to the west side of Pochinki. And Kitsune will try and hold out against INSILIO in the trenches, see if he can win that one through. Then the play zone taking a knock over towards Guild, and Flower looking to try and hold off. They've already got 4 elims, remember, from that early game engagement, but Guild are looking to try and take the fight with them as well. The roll-up doesn't go well, though, and Flower still has a little bit more gas in the tank and has Longs on the high ground on the off angle there. Last player from Guild to try and take the fight, but it's put down. 676 can try and get into this one, and 3 players survive. A nice heal off coming through in the blue zone, stage 4. This will be survivable, and they're up to 8 points now, Blank.
Yeah, it's an unreal response from Flower. He absolutely blossoms into that fight, gets a ton of damage done. But it's VOIN Donkey ID up against Dplus. They're inside the building. They're unable to hold on, and VOIN Donkey ID will go down with the help of RCB chiming in from that sideline, who now send over towards the position. Dplus is suffering at the moment. They have a player down. Nades coming through for 4MV also.
Crash on crash on crash. RCB try and step on in. 1-for-1 on the trade, but the numbers are in their advantage. That gives them their favor, but Fabian tries to take it back. Unfortunately, won't be able to find enough. Now, is there another team? Anybody else? Anybody more? Because Na'Vi are on the south side. They could potentially look to push into this one, depending on how fast RCB can get themselves back together. Maybe TJB want to try.
4MV quiet on that one. They allow them in. Another team to set up towards that position, but for every team that gets towards there, it's safer sailing for 4MV going forward. Alpha 7 still yet to push in from that western edge. Tongjiabao, honestly, a great game from them so far. And this was the turn-up that we wanted to see coming through from that team. 8 eliminations on the match. Fantastic news for them. 4 elims for INSILIO, but now down to just 2 players as they try and make their way through Pochinki, which is on that eastern edge.
I'm looking at RCB right now, Blank. I mean, they took that warehouse. They have gotten back to their feet, so they are full 4 in this central location. There's not too many full 4 squads as well who are looking to push through them. The roll down towards TJB for DRX. I mean, they lose 1, but they will have half of their remaining players taken out. DRX now down to 3 players. Influence Rage, I think the most dangerous spot right now for RCB to try and push down south. It seems like that's what they're going to go for, but if they lose a player or 2 in this fight on the north side with DRX, that is going to make it so much easier for RCB to hold.
Pretty criminal circle, this one. Dangerous for a lot of teams. Heads dead center towards the fields of Pochinki on the western side of it. There is high ground to play around with. And honestly, NIGMA Galaxy have a strong spot in Church. They can continue to play this one. Multiple times in the past, we have seen teams somewhat blunder Church holds, but I'm hoping NIGMA Galaxy can get a lot done from this position. Kitsune fairly happy with this one as well. He's able to live out a little bit longer over towards Pochinki, keeping him in, and there's always that possibility for him to creep out over towards the fields later. I think he's playing the 3-story, if I'm not mistaken, down towards that south side. Smart place to be because you can dodge a lot of the nades that come through, but we'll keep an eye on him as the game progresses. You're right though about Influence Rage. They would like to move down towards that south side. There's a strong possibility that they'll even play on the hillside around Church and try and aggress on that position because it does deny sightlines for a little bit longer.
Yeah, you don't expose as hard towards 4MV's position in the compound that they have out in the open. There is only 2 players there, though, and it looks like they're more concerned about the west side. They know that leaving Pochinki, not super likely, especially given that the Church is such a high ground powerhouse there to be able to take shots out towards from Redox. But again, pretty dangerous if you do take a knock. Should be coverable, but will allow a team to approach. So for NIGMA Galaxy, they just want to keep a little bit of control. They don't want to go too fast out into the open. 4MV looking to play off of that and control the west side away from Alpha 7.
RTB, I'm pretty sure they know that it's a weakened team down towards the south side, outside of that warehouse. The issue is getting out. I think that depending on where the circle goes, there will be an investment of smokes coming through from RCB to attempt to train across towards 4MV. I think they know that they're a 2-man team, because if they were a 4-man squad, they would have likely tried the third party after that fight came through from RCB where they went down to 2 players, but 4MV was very passive in their approach there. So RCB has a lot of good information to work off the back of here. Influence Rage, on the other hand, Lord does get up over towards that hillside underneath Redox. For the rest of NIGMA Galaxy, they're ensuring that no one escapes from Pochinki here.
Na'Vi on the southwest side trying to play from their hilltop that they've had for a little while. Quite quiet in that zone of the map, Blank. Everybody on the north side of this one, but the open ground that sits between Na'Vi and everybody else is going to be like a sea to cross. And they will need to breach it. Kitsune in the trenches, INSILIO trying to move out of Pochinki. 4 elims found for them so far. All of them, I believe, on Fash there. And 2 players left to stand. So Kitsune, with a nade in hand, wants to try and slow this approach.
Interesting smoke. Actually allows Kitsune to peek out and send a nade through. I'd be interested to see if he goes for that one. INSILIO might have caused themselves more problems than not. I think they were hoping to hold off versus multiple angles, but it's just Kitsune in there for the time being. Getting our next circle now. Depending on where it goes, this could get a little bit hectic.
Oh dear.
And now NIGMA Galaxy have one of the strongest positions in the circle.
This is really, really dominant stuff for the position of NIGMA Galaxy. They left Novalo back over into Pochinki, but I'm expecting to see him start to move in about 30 seconds when the circle does as well. They know that those sweep around the sides are going to be much less likely, so you can push him up towards where Redox sits in that Church hilltop and try and play that 2-2 position. The south side of it can hold off these players on the south edge and get so much done towards the open field. It's really, really strong for NIGMA Galaxy. I think that cannot be overemphasized. Fantastic position for them.
Ooh, for Kitsune, it starts to get very tough now. They look to push on through. He keeps putting the pin back in the grenade. DBS in hand, so pretty good in close quarters. I think you'd have better off just sending one through at this point in time. NIGMA Galaxy now understands the player inside here, and Kitsune cannot hold his own. INSILIO up to 5 eliminations here. Team Spirit going down in 10th place means they get little to no points on this game. Ralph finding Fash though off the back of that, a fantastic opening for them, and NIGMA Galaxy looking down to clear out the entirety of that eastern side. And Redox really does have to be on the swivel here, like a periscope over towards Church, watching out for Influence Rage, because that is the big target.
The smoke's about to fade as well on Alpha 7's position here on the west side as DRX continue to put pressure on. They've been in the standoff for a little bit now, Blank, and it seems to be going the way of DRX. Even though DRX did lose a player as well, but Na'Vi looking for the roll-up. Okay, they're the first team to try and crash in towards 4MV. Everybody else is preoccupied out the west side, and NIGMA Galaxy seemingly not having a say into this one. Na'Vi clean up to this one. They've left one player behind. Flip is still out in the open. And with Na'Vi on 4 players finding a nade over towards them, Reefus is down, and this is an excellent opener. The roll-up for Na'Vi going miraculously well.
Through the nade up the stairs, I'm pretty sure it bounced and then hit Reefus, which is really unfortunate. I think Baron was like, haha, you missed me, guys. But realistically, they went exactly where they wanted to be. And now Na'Vi comfortably control this compound off towards the western side. Influence Rage make their way in. Alpha 7 taking shots over towards DRX.
And now that there's a full 4 team in that compound, Blank, that changed the dynamic dramatically. It means this roll-up for Alpha 7 just got 10 times harder. There is no easier option at this stage to push north into DRX. You've got the blue zone on your side. RCB in the warehouse, and Na'Vi now taking residency in the compound. Alpha 7 have got their work cut out for them. And with only 1 elimination, 7 teams still remaining, it is going to be tough to make this crossing. 6 does go down, but that's traded almost immediately by Puncher. And now it's up to Mafioso to try and cross through this one. Lemon with the off angle, but what a stand-up. What a shutdown there. They're looking to try and keep this one under control. Na'Vi had a great roll-up, but the hold, not so good.
Mafioso always has been a bit of a maverick when it comes to clutch plays. An insane shot running through the fields there. Finally, a bit of a shutdown on towards Alpha 7, but the fact they're able to get this close is disgusting. Opening up onto another with CARYA through the window. A nade needs to be phenomenal. They will find the last. But not without punishment onto Na'Vi.
Crucially though, Blank, no flushes. Just knocks sent to Na'Vi. Sure, it'll drain their armor, but they still have 4 sightlines to play with. The circle moves down south, and surprise, surprise, it's onto one of the strong positions that NIGMA Galaxy hold. Influence Rage actually moved in and pushed them off of that high ground. You can see the regroup has now come in. Redox is off from the church and moving back towards the rest of the team. And playing down the hill will be a little bit exposed as soon as Na'Vi try and leave, as soon as RCB try and leave, which they'll have to.
He's fine.
Oh, yeah, okay. He's got the cover there.
Inside the Wizard Tower, great spot to be in. It actually sets up a lovely off angle for Redox. His nades do have to be pretty potent, but even if they lose him, he's a very good stopgap between him and Influence Rage. And I think it was the right decision to give up Church. I think a lot of teams realize it's not likely to finish there anymore, but he got the early warning signs coming through for NIGMA Galaxy, in which case they could pull away from that fight between them and INSILIO and further cement themselves inside this circle. Quick push out coming through from Na'Vi. Dangerous stuff, but it will keep them in the game a little bit longer.
Oh, Puncher giving them the shimmy, shimmy, shake off to the round sent his way. Just about staying alive. RCB not so lucky on their rotate. This game for Na'Vi has been really quite strong, Blank. I think their roll-up over towards the compound, excellent, but now their move through the open ground is made tough. RCB try and head up towards the church, but Influence Rage giving no quarter. Immediate shutdown. Silas the last to go. In a flaming vehicle, hops over the top, and Redox now looks for the fight, shuts it down. And it will be the end of RCB. Influence Rage on the north side.
Yeah, I think for RCB, they would have been better off trying to fight versus Na'Vi earlier on. And then they just have a last-ditch attempt there, trying to move over towards Church, hoping that it's free. I think it's your last play really inside there. You could have maybe dropped some vehicles over towards the loot crate in the middle and create a little bit of impromptu cover and just taken a fight toe-to-toe with Na'Vi, although it would have been a bit awkward. But certainly possible. But I don't think RCB were getting much further into this game after what occurred earlier on. They were a little bit too passive inside that warehouse. Now this is interesting. Moving back over towards that northern side, suddenly Influence Rage have a ridiculous position to play in.
Oh, that's nasty, and they will take shots out to the open. I've been impressed by Na'Vi this game. A top 4 and the elimination count that they've gotten so far, Blank. It is a good result, and they've been needing one pretty desperately up until this point if they want a chance to step towards the podium. We'll have to wait and see how much exactly they can get back into it, but they're out of the circle. They'll need to cross open ground, and I just don't think they've got the gas left in the tank. The cover is there, and the nades continue to roll over the top. NIGMA Galaxy with the bounce on top does actually find the protection from the rock, from the hay bale there somehow, and doesn't go down. NIGMA Galaxy continue the bombardment.
I get it works out, and I understand what NIGMA Galaxy is trying to do here. I think that you give up the eliminations though for favor of more nades in the pocket, because NIGMA Galaxy expended a lot there, and I'm pretty sure you'll need these when the push comes through from Influence Rage. It all depends on how many more death crates, how much more nades they have in the back pocket. But for Na'Vi, they were somewhat doomed. Slightly worried for that first place coming through from NIGMA Galaxy, though they put up more points off the back of it. We'll see if that comes back to bite them. Westron now pushing up. Imagine if Team Spirit had more than 2 players here. They're able to fight off against INSILIO. Potentially, this is a 3rd place for them.
Unfortunately not to be. 5 elims though in a 3rd place for INSILIO, and they just keep going, Blank. We were talking about consistency at the start of the day. VOIN Donkey ID really impressive, but INSILIO were still there, and they continue to chug away that diesel engine of a team, making it work. Westron, though, probably not long for this one with the blue zone pushing him around the back of the tree. Has to make a crazy dash. Does manage to get up to the wall, but the corner not going to be super friendly here. NIGMA Galaxy know that he's made this cross. The smoke is there. A little bit of cover. He's getting some healing done, and will try and take a fight. Hopping forwards. And is he inside? I think he's managed to make it to the shack. However, last circle starting to close.
Moving into Zone 9 now. And this will close until there's nothing left. Influence Rage as well as NIGMA Galaxy trying to make this one work. Influence Rage moves over towards that high ground. They expose themselves. NIGMA Galaxy not able to find too much off the back of this one. It is a tough rollout from Influence Rage. But like I said earlier, nades are dry for NIGMA Galaxy.
Redox has been holding in this tower for a while, and finally Influence Rage descend. Looking for the shots. Navallo looks for Lil Boy, clocks him on the descent, and 2 players down onto the ground floor. They need Redox away, but he's just been so stalwart in his hold. The cross in the open, though, gets cut through by Lorazin, and the spray down is good for a flush. Influence Rage with 3 players now left standing, and it's up to Snowix and Redox to try and find the crossfire, but there's nothing. It's Influence Rage. They move into the church, and they evict NIGMA Galaxy from the game.
I mean, for NIGMA Galaxy, there was a possibility to basically extract themselves from that fight between them and INSILIO a lot earlier, but they just do not go for it. Influence Rage, though, with a fantastic chicken dinner from Church.
Back-to-back games here for Influence Rage as well, and if you went into this whole event saying which Brazilian team would be towards the top of the table, I don't think most people out there would not have said this team for Influence Rage, but a great finish off for them playing from Church, and they get themselves the points they desperately need here, Max.
Yeah, it's all over the place. We thought Team Liquid would also be able to